Spook.
Yes.
Did you see there's a new superhero show on Disney?
Oh, really? What's it called?
Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel?
Yes.
I didn't know the Dacos had a sister.
Welcome to the Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And it's just another Manic Monday spook.
Spook.
Yes.
How
You
do
wish
you...
it was Sunday.
Wish it was Sunday every week. How'd you feel about the win against Gold Coast?
Did we win? By that much? We missed it.
No,
we got it by that much,
Yeah.
Chief.
Dewy conditions.
Two ignitions.
Dewy conditions.
Dewy conditions.
That's, a result of them wrong shit to you hours ago. Really wet.
It was really wet.
Yeah.
Where'd you say it was really wet?
Yeah.
The night was moist.
Yeah. Slippery. A lot of fumbling from most players.
A lot of misses.
Jeez, that's unusual, isn't it?
Was there a lot of dew on the ball?
There's a lot of dew in the box.
Did it impact its spinning capabilities?
I think it did.
Do we still have that guy on the phone from NASA we were talking to earlier?
No, we don't. So, how'd you feel about this win? We raced out to they raced out to a couple of goals ahead. We got back. We got a few goals up. Looked like we were in control. Terrible third quarter. They ran all over the top of us. They actually got to a 14-point.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we needed 3 to get our noses back in front. It actually felt at that point that the lead was bigger. Very, very low scoring, scrappy affair.
I mean, another one. I know they were ultimately inaccurate, but another one where we were inaccurate at a point that we probably could have buried the game.
Well, that's it. And again, it's those misses straight out in front that are killers.
In terms of the game itself, a lot of the more senior players were quiet. Pendlebury, Adams,
The
Goey. All right, so
he might have had an excuse though.
So I saw Kane Corns.
Who did you see him?
I saw him on the Sunday Footy Show.
Well, someone has to.
Who criticised him and saying, it's because you went their way and all this shit that's popped up and you shouldn't be able to blame anyone else. And I'm just sitting there going, well, maybe the fucking speculation all the media has lambasted him with over the last 2 weeks might have a little something to do with him being a little bit distracted.
So I didn't see that. That's actually what he said.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I'm just watching going, why don't you vultures just fucking fuck off where there's no story and go...
Was there a horse in front of him that he was flogging with a stick?
Yes, there was.
I said stick.
Yes, it was John Longmire. Yeah, so I was watching that thinking, he's playing like someone who's actually distracted by other things. So there's been speculation on his future. One journalist has said he's so angry at the club, that's why he took a week off. Another one, Tom Brown, no less, said no, there's no problems.
You think he's got inside word?
I don't know. We've heard some varying things about his future.
Who, Tom Brown's?
No, we said future. About whether the Goey will be there next year or not.
Yes.
So, what do you think about his game? The one thing, Wayne Carey jumped in at one stage and said, he's only gotten this many possessions, but he's actually leading the clearances for Collingwood. So, yeah, he was actually doing stuff, even though it was on a limited capacity.
Yeah, look, I think under the circumstances, you probably consider he was going to have a quiet one. I don't think he's the sort of bloke who just comes out and says, I've got a point to prove and goes nuts. So, but yeah, he was involved. I mean, I don't think he sort of put his hands up and said, look at me. But he certainly, I did notice quite a few clearances coming out of his game, which is what you want. Like he opened the account with the first clearance was that, just taking it and get that rake of kicking. He thought, well, maybe he has got a point to prove, but then he just vanished.
Well, Bane Corns also said that, you dropped that chest mark inside 50. That's not normally what a player would do, of his calibre and all this, and blamed it again on the distractions. And I'm thinking, a little bit earlier, Pendlebury dropped a fucking sitter at half back.
Oh, there's a few of them were dropping. I mean, obviously it was greasy.
Yeah, so you're using things that are very commonplace. I mean, all players fucking drop marks at some stage. I remember I dropped one in the under-16s, but I did recover the ball. But he's using stuff that's pretty commonplace to, again, build a case against the Goey.
Oh, well, you got to keep flogging that dead horse.
So we ran a poll on the Rant Twitter just to sort of ask, would we keep him or let him go?
It was great. I voted 84 times.
Well, of the votes, it was pretty much about 75% said keep.
Yep, I wouldn't be surprised with that.
Yep.
I think he's just yeah, the last discretion aside, he's just too valuable at this stage to discard. He just fits perfectly into what we're trying to build.
Oh, look, but it's actually helped Collingwood what's happened because they could just turn around and go, we're not going to give you 800, we'll give you 600 now. So for their salary cap, I don't want to call them woes, but whatever's happening there.
I mean, they could, depending on how much they're on his side, and you would think side by side might mean something once, that he could be still offered that same amount of money, but based on performance incentives and, first maybe a year or two is low and then up.
I heard the club's so disappointed in him, they're only going to offer him 9 years.
He's on his way out.
Yep. So other players, Hoskin Elliott, a whipping boy of yours. I mean, I've always loved him.
I knew what I was doing. No, he's look, and he's starting to do it a little bit consistently, which is good.
We talked about like that game style's probably starting to suit him. He's starting
Yeah.
to fit. The thing I was really impressed with that goal he kicked, he broke through the pack.
Yep.
He looked like he was going to just have an impulse shot, but he actually realised, no, I'm in the open, steady, and then he gained a bit more distance and he snapped it in, which I thought was great composure, which I haven't always necessarily seen from him.
No, but you would think that at that level of maturity, he would make that correct call, which is obviously what he did.
Oh, you'd hope.
You'd hope, yeah. Like, I think that, again, that's just experience coming to the top.
Darcy Moore.
Yes. Do we all say a collective prayer to our
well, at the time of recording this,
deity?
He's been cleared of structural damage.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? It's under Buckley, and I'm saying it's Buckley's fault, but we were just like living some life of cursedness, that he would have been out for the next 64 years.
He still could be. So we did talk about this earlier. I went back to 2019 where I think they said the go was going to be out for 10 days of hamstring tightness, and he came back 10 weeks later. So obviously the club came fighting. Darcy Moore did look elated to the extent that maybe he's not as seriously injured. He knows it. Charlie Dean, unfortunately, in reserves, broke a little toe and will be out for the next 4 years.
Welcome to Collingwood.
Yeah.
How many years of extension have we given him this week?
I think he's only got 6 years. I'm not sure about this guy's future at the club. Nick Dacos, what's he like?
Jeez, he's struggling, isn't he?
He is the only guy in that whole game to handle that ball like it was dry and he had resin on his hands.
His skill set is just sublime at this age. It's frightening what he could potentially
His
become.
composure too. He doesn't.
Oh, that's it. You're running around, and he's played, what was it, 12, 13 games now? Mm-hmm. He's your best player on the park by a mile. It's just unheard of. And for someone of his age, like that kick to Josh, which has obviously been covered a fair bit, that's just sublime. I mean, the fact that you could have, like everyone said, your first instinct in that probably section of the game, you would have just bombed it long. It's the Collingwood thing to bomb it long.
Yeah.
But to have that awareness of where his brother was and that beautifully weighted kick, like Josh didn't have to break stride. He was already arcing out. It just landed straight onto his chest and then bang, it went home.
And it was really so well weighted that it had just enough weight to carry over the I don't know who the Gold Coast player closing on Josh was, but it just went over his head. If it was a little bit too flat, that guy could have put his hand up. If it was a little bit too lofted, then Josh would have had to pause. It, as you said, didn't break stride, and there was a really good finish from Josh, kick free.
It's almost as good as that inside-out torp he did to Ginnivan in the first quarter.
Well,
you would seriously think that was a mistake, but you're just not sure.
No.
You'd like to think it was a deliberate action. It probably wasn't, but I've already decided it was.
Oh, it was definitely. He was going at 100% in the first half. He went down to 83%. I know some people have knocked him because he's taking kick-outs. It's like, well, okay, he's taking kick-outs.
That's because he's a good kick. So what?
But if he's taking kick-outs and he's actually still at 100%, that means he's actually hitting targets with the kick-outs. He's not just bombing the fuck out of it and hoping for the best.
Well, that's it. I mean, you look at when Leon Davis was doing the kick-outs in 11, his efficiency rate was through the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a stupid idea to use someone of Nick's kicking ability as the designated kicker. I don't think he's got massive penetration, but you don't have to run too far to intercept one of his kicks.
Well, the way the game is built now, where they're just basically letting the guy kicking out run 20 metres unopposed.
Yeah, you'll clear the 50 easy.
Yeah. And he's probably going to gain more penetration with his kicking as he builds up muscle. As it is, I mean, he's still kicking about 50 anyway, so...
What I also love about him too is he's obviously just that invested in wanting to win. Like there were just moments where the celebration was over the top, not over the top bad, but just he loves it. And
He's invested.
Yeah, and when the siren went at the end, he was going gangbuster nuts.
And I think that I really look at.
It's good to see that they care.
Well,
obviously they do, but to show it that way.
The other thing I look at with players who celebrate and do that sort of stuff is, I watch if they're the ones who run around, and commend players when they do well or stuff like that. And he's one of those guys. He'll run up, and not in relation to Nick, but when Darcy Moore went down, I actually thought it was really good that a lot of Collingwood players ran up to him and patted him on the head and said it's okay and all that sort of stuff, which I think shows the different group mentality under McRae compared to what it was like under Buckley. You didn't see that often under Buckley, and now they really run in and they celebrate the moment and rebond, I guess is the best way of putting it. You can tell that it's one in, all in.
Yeah, there's very much a unified approach clearly on display. You wonder though, well, not wonder, but you've got a very tight knit 22 that's probably there's not that much depth underneath that 22, barring injury, is going to be disrupted. Whether that's that inclusivity still is embracing the whole playing list, not just that 22. You'd hope so. I mean, there was footage last week when Chug was given the game, and I think they lined him up and pretty much had some gag thing about if you slot it through, you're in this week type thing, and they all mobbed him at the end, but they always mob them and that sort of thing. But yeah, maybe there is clear evidence there that they're bonding as a bigger collective.
I think they mobbed him though because he actually got a goal. Do you think it's great to see the return of being Sorry?
Seeing the return of the Jedi?
No.
It's a science fiction show now.
No, it's not.
Okay.
To see the return of opposition allowing to just maul the fuck out of Mason Cox whenever he's up forward.
Geez, he was pushed under it a fair bit, wasn't he? And just goes unsighted. It's amazing. It's not like he's a small person that could be easily overlooked. Has he got a coming? Has he got a sign on him that says, I deserve this sort of treatment? It's been consistent over his career.
And the funny thing is, you occasionally get ones up in the wing which show, look, it's happening elsewhere, but it's only being paid when he's further from goal for the most part.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I'd be happy if I was running the club to just complain about it on a fortnightly basis and just keep putting it out there.
Well, you got the stats up here to reinforce it, haven't you? Stats, no?
No.
Oh, we'll move on then.
Trey Risco coming in for his first game.
He was good.
I thought he was good too.
He played in defence, I think, as a junior, didn't he?
Yeah, and then Buckley was playing up forward.
Yeah, that worked well for him, didn't it? No, he looked he looked very comfortable there. I mean, he didn't set the world on fire, but it's only enough. He's only played a handful of games, but no, I think he did enough to hold his spot this week. You'd think.
Oh, with the injury, it's more also. The thing I liked about Risco is he did take that mark at half forward, and he actually went back and had a shot. He missed by miles, which is okay. Welcome to Collingwood. But I actually like the fact that as a young player, he said, I'm going to go back and take the responsibility to have this shot.
Yeah, no, I like to see them back. I'd rather see them back and miss that than take ridiculous snaps directly in front.
Well, I was going to say, so Ginnivan...
Oh, you're going to bring this up, are you?
Yeah. Ginnivan...
Would you have dragged him?
I would have dragged him,
I would have dragged him and ripped into him too.
I would have said, what the fuck are you doing? Even that second goal, I think it was, where he snapped, and he was on like about a 45-degree angle. Even that one was like, just fucking walk in. And the one on the boundary, fine. But there was that other one he kicked where it's just like, he's still pretty much straight in front. And he snapped it in, but he just made it.
It started to, it didn't have much penetration on it. No, I seriously think that when you're out in front, it's a drop punt every day of the week.
Yeah.
These snaps around the body, it surely increases the difficulty of the shot. I think, obviously it's meant to clear your mind. They do second nature thing, takes the pressure off up there mentally or something like that. Look, and I don't mind it when it's on the boundary because it probably does improve the angle because instead of, kicking through that thin 2 goalposts from that viewpoint, you do bring the ball round. But when you're straight in front, just kick it straight.
Yeah.
This should be a bread and butter kick.
Oh, well, that's the one where I say, if that was... You're taking a mark after the siren, mate, you can't do that.
No, you can't.
So at least fucking get some practice in to actually kick. It's really... I thought that... The worst thing about that, and I don't know whether he was just sort of going, I'm going to do this because I think this is the percentage thing. But watching that, I thought that smacked the fucking arrogance. And I would have ripped him off. I don't mind you being arrogant in some regards, but sometimes you just need to go back and do the simple thing. And that's what I always used to say about Peter Dacos. Like, people remember him as a mercurial forward, but the thing is, there were times he would dribble it, times he'd snap it, times he'd banana kick it, but when you were just running straight at goal, he just would use a drop punt because he knew which kick to use for what situation. It wasn't like, I'm going to fucking turn this into a fancy goal now. He was like a golfer, choosing his club. Ginnivan was like, oh, I'm going to make this fancy even though I'm straight in front. And that was at a vital time of the game where they were coming at us and we were really struggling and we needed a settler. And two, if I was like an opponent watching that, I'd just be going, fuck you. I'm going to lift even further because I want to smack the arrogance out of you. So that really frustrated me. The forwards tended to be McCreary. I think he touched the ball about 4 times, and
he runs around scaring people though. I think
he did really well. But it was one of those games where we've had those sort of games where, because you got that young forward line. I mean, Ginnivan kicked the free, but then was largely unsighted. Oliver Henry did a few things, but really it was generally unsighted. And McCreary was great for pressure, but didn't get a lot of the ball. So you had one of these games where those guys, their input wasn't that high. Mychek tried a fucking stupid snap from 10 metres out on a bit of an angle when he should have just went back and kicked it.
Yeah, look, from that angle when you're about a metre out, you can't miss.
No, and again, that's just, it's bread and butter stuff that you should be nailing. It's just go back and do the required thing.
You wonder though, because like the accuracy's been poor the last couple of games. Whether it's almost that sense of rushing it to try and get over that hoodoo hurdle, that they're taking these silly little risks when they should be just backing themselves and go back and having.
That's where Mychek now. He's been around for 5 years, so I mean he's not like a senior experienced player in terms of 150 games or something, but still in terms of age and profile, you think he has the maturity that he should be saying to himself, I'm going to go back and fucking nail this because I'm going to lead the way and show them this is how we do it. It's one of those things, like when you watch games and everyone's missing and then someone gets one and it just sort of seems to relieve everyone. That's what you need a few of these more senior players to do. Just like, let's just fucking take it easy. I mean, Adams missed a really easy one from straight in. At least he walked in and missed
Darcy Cameron missed the reliable missed one.
Yeah, so there was a lot of easy misses. You need some of these players just to go, I'll get this. And I know, there's pressure and all that shit. There's tiredness and all that. But they're not difficult shots, a lot of these.
No, but look, if there was one saving grace, it was the same for Gold Coast. They were missing gimmies from out in front, except for Casbolt. He just misses them naturally.
Yeah, but I mean, for us, this missing's been
It is a concerning
It's been
trait.
a pandemic. So, for, I don't know, about 4 years. So, they need to find a way, or even McRae needs to find a way, just sort of say, look, you're a senior guy, take your time, steady the team. Do what Sidebottom does. Take the mickey. Upset the umpire.
Oh, what a champion.
Any other thoughts about this game?
It was good to escape with the 4 points. Again, it's one of those funny ones where, look, even though we were 3 goals down and at that stage, I think in the third quarter, what did we score? About a behind or something? You're sort of thinking, seriously, where those 3 goals going to come from? But you didn't have that completely throw your hands up mentality that we've had in the past. You think they've done enough the last couple of times in this position to fight it out and get their nose back in front, which is exactly what they ended up doing. It pissed Stuart Dew off no end. He had a bit of a tanty towards the end and stormed out of the coach's box. So it's good that you get under the skins, and if you get a bit of a reputation for really fighting out those close ones, it must make the opposition sort of second guess about the comfort levels. Well, we're 3 goals up, we should just cruise from here. And then
we can tend to kick them really quickly. I heard Jew got so annoyed he went and watched Star Trek Discovery. I thought the same thing. I mean, I always believe we can win, but because this season when we tend to go off the ball, like I was thinking about that Geelong game when we were 6 goals up and then they just stormed home. And we barely touched the ball. That third quarter was a lot like that. We really sort of were barely able to influence the game, and it was like, oh fuck! I hope this is not the time where it's Dewey. It's
Stuart Dewey.
Yeah, they've flown there. In-state game.
It's been a monsoon up there too as well, so which wouldn't have helped.
We've had a number of close games. So is this the game where they hit the wall? So it was good, really gratifying to see him. Run over the top of Gold Coast. And Gold Coast is not an easy beat anymore. So it wasn't a game where we should have walked in. Bless you. We should have walked in thinking that we'll win by 5 goals easy.
That's what we thought, though.
Yeah, but I don't think we'd beat them by 5 goals because they're shit. I just thought we'd beat them by 5 goals because we're a bit better than they are.
No, and they're definitely not the easy beats, especially up there, because they had a couple of big scalps leading into this. I think they'd beaten Freo and...
I think Richmond was on it.
Yeah.
And they ran a few other games like Melbourne close.
Mm.
So...
No, they're definitely improving.
Yeah,
and they've got some very talented players in their list too. So I think you can't undersell the win.
Let me ask you a burning question. Nick Dacos, should he keep the 35?
Yes.
Okay. You listening, Collingwood?
No, they won't. They're going to do the stupid thing and give it away. I think he's done enough this season to make it his own, and I just don't invest in this.
That's bullshit.
First year player. How many? I think we've talked about this before, but there's been a couple of first year players who've only
Schoenberg, you didn't say it.
Only wore it at training.
Yeah, Schoenberg.
McRae was another one, wasn't he?
I don't think Schoenberg, you would have even seen him at training in that first year.
No.
McRae? We didn't have McRae, did we?
Finlay
McRae,
McRae,
wasn't
wasn't he? Yeah, wasn't he our first pick?
Henry was 35.
Was it?
Yeah. But yeah, there was one of the other ones, Jay Rantel, or one of those that year before. He was 35.
Oh, that's the one I was thinking of, yeah. Sorry.
And the thing I really hated about, like, they talk about this sacrifice that Presti made in 2010 to declare himself unfit for the grand final. So it's like, we want to teach the draftee, our first draftee for that year, the same lesson. And it's like, okay, what about the other draftees? They're not learning that selflessness. The other ones, you go be selfish. This one guy is going to be selfless because we're giving him the 35.
Well, that's it. I can still teach the lesson. He just gets to keep the number, though.
Oh, look, I think if they really want to involve Presti's sacrifice, they could easily do something like a club Presti, bring him in, get him to mentor the young players, that sort of stuff. They could do something a lot more meaningful than this, what's just purely a symbolic measure of, hey, Presti, it was noble that he sacrificed himself to not play in the flag, because it's not like that happened that often at Collingwood. But the actual logic behind it doesn't make sense. It's like, all right, so we're teaching one player this, but the rest of the players...
No, I think it's time to end it.
Yeah, and Nick Dacos is... I mean, Josh Dacos could have been the guy, but I think Nick Dacos is the guy that, hey, keep him the fucking 35. I just find it, I don't know, nonsensical.
Yeah. Interesting what they do there. I mean, it really is an enormous marketing potential there.
Yeah.
To keep him in the 35 and then the romanticise with his linking back to his old man. You could really... do all sorts of, heritage jumpers and all that sort of thing, getting back to it. And, look, you even saw, I think it was Orville and Peter were arm in arm leaving the ground and someone snapped photos of it and that sort of stuff. And, there's enough knowledge of his old man still, even with the younger people, that you make the connection and you can bank on this for another 10 plus years.
Yep. Playing North Melbourne this week.
Oh, fuck, it's a danger game, isn't it?
It is with us. So... Big question. Darcy Moore there saying he could potentially play.
You wouldn't.
You wouldn't? Who would you play? Howe will obviously
Howe come in. I'd just leave Rusco in for Moore. Do they have any? They don't think they have any great key forwards left, do they? To exploit? Do they have anything?
They have a couple of big young guys. I don't know how good they are, but if I was going to play on, this is the time I'd actually say, and I know his form hasn't warranted it, but it's just like, fuck it. Go give Will Kelly a game right now and go, we're going to play at fullback because you're not going to be the difference between winning and losing this because it's not like his opponent's going to kick 15 goals.
Has he been playing VFL?
He played VFL last week. They were all underwhelming last week, so I don't want to single him out. But this is the game where I'd say, you know what? North is so fucking bad at the moment and they're really that close to where the players know the coach is just about gone. So they're all going to be in self-preservation mode. I don't think they have, just given what's been reported, I don't think they have any great loyalty to the coach where they're going to pull one out of nowhere. So I just go, just fucking play Will Kelly. Give him that one game against lesser opposition, surrounded by semi-experienced core with, Howe there and that sort of thing. Craner, who's sort of getting experience. Noble, who's been really good. Murphy, who's really stamped himself, a fucking good player this year. Just see how he goes.
Yeah. I mean, the safe play would be to put Bradbury back in.
Oh, Magden? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why it's like, no offense to Jack Magden, we're not going to get with him. There's about 4 players, I think, on that list. So Will Kelly would be one of them. The 2 Browns would be the others, Callum more so, who would be really struggling to hold their positions at the end of the year. I think they've given Callum enough chances this year where, just from the outside looking in, it's almost like I think they've gone, well, we know what we're going to get here.
Yeah, I think he's done.
Tyler, I think, will be given another year. It's just me guessing. And Will Kelly, I think they're going to be looking at also and just going, do we carry him for another year? Because in the time we've had him, he's played 2 quarters of football, and otherwise he hasn't really demanded a position, and he seems to be made of fucking
balsa wood.
Yeah, so
yeah. Look, I don't know. I think you've had how many years in the system has he had? 3 or 4.
He's been there forever. I don't know. I mean, the one thing if these players should qualify is there's a couple of COVID years where there was obviously 1 year where there was no.
Do you have glandular fever or something 1 year or something?
I think he started COVID. And then I think the following year the VFL season was cancelled because there was another COVID outbreak. So I don't know, but yeah. So obviously the development of some of these players, but then you got to probably look at it and go, well, has the development impacted them to the capacity, as Buckley would say, that's it. It's just ruined them.
You're halfway through a season, though. You haven't heard of anything. I don't watch a lot of VFL games these days, but you haven't heard his name uttered.
Well, that's the thing we just talked about is like after these 22, you got Chug at 23, Finlay McRae, Poulter, that Liam McMahon, the 2 Browns, the 2 new guys, Cooper Murley and Harrison. And that Harrison sort of early in the year, you kept hearing his name being bandied about as a possible inclusion. We thought Poulter should have been in there almost by default at one stage, but he seems to have fallen away, and McRae hasn't really seized his chance. So, of those guys that we had better raps on, they haven't really pushed ahead with their claim this year. And there might be a lot of other reasons. I mean, maybe they're just the VFL team's not good enough, and so they're struggling and all that sort of stuff. But, yeah, I just look at him and think, okay, as far as Will Kelly goes, give him the game and see if he has something at AFL level that we should carry him another year.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
And see if he actually can last the game, because that would be the number one thing he should do.
You'd want to give him a bit of an uninterrupted run, and more you would think. Who we got after North?
They're all shit teams like Essendon.
Yeah, you'd be tempted to bring if he's okay and not sore. I mean, I guess you're going to find out with more over the next couple of days if it's bone bruising or whatever. If he comes up tender, they may err on the side of caution, keep him out for another week.
Oh look, I'm not trying to be arrogant. North is shit, so there's no reason to rush more.
No, definitely not.
So give him the week's break. They really missed that sort of guerrilla defender. So Risco and Murphy are a little bit undersized to play that key position. Howe's undersized to play that key position. Kelly's the guy that needs to make that his position.
Yeah, he's got the size and mobility.
I don't know if he has the mongrel of his father.
Beg's no good to sort of sit back and...
No, I mean, the other thing, if you go totally lateral and just go, fuck it, we'll play Cameron at centre-half back for a game, but he's playing so well in the ruck, do you really disrupt that? So I would just be, like I said, I'd just have a look at Kelly and just off that one performance against lesser opposition with better support around him than VFL, just make a determination, let's carry him another year, unless he gets injured.
It's also hard to know whether there'd be instant synergy there with the rest of the defenders. Like Murphy came in and looked like he'd belonged there for a while. I'm not sure whether you get the same out of Kelly, but anyway, time will tell.
I don't know. Yeah. Tips?
It's a massive danger game. I think North by 10 goals.
Yeah, I think North by 15 goals.
15?
15.
That's more than they've kicked in the last 11 games.
Any final thoughts?
No, not that you want to kick someone while they're down, but it's North, so it's probably okay. A percentage booster would be a fucking awesome outcome out of this. I think we've got a fair bit of percentage to make up to probably stay in the 8, or at least catch Carlton. It'd be good to have an increase in those numbers.
Well, if Moore comes back in a couple of weeks, the side could legitimately push for a top 4 position. You'd think they're going to win a couple of these easy ones. I mean, the one proviso there is I did throw in Essendon, but Essendon's been playing better since the break.
No, and that's even West Coast and that are really lifting their game. At the moment, towards the tail end of the season, even the shit sides tend to play well. It wouldn't be a fait accompli that we just cruise through all these. Yeah, we're due for a stinker.
And then we've got a few games at the back end, which Melbourne and Carlton, which will be really tough. So, but potentially they could push for a top 4. But if Moore's out, then that's it for the season. There's no way they're going to get anywhere near a flag.
No, I don't think they're going to get near a flag at any rate. But I would to think of maybe one finals win would be a good outcome. It'd certainly, I think, get the juices flowing for next year.
Oh, look, I always believe if you're in there, then you can win it. Obviously, you need a lot of shit to go your way, and that doesn't generally happen for Collingwood. You'd need sort of teams to fall over around you, but it does happen at times. The one thing I will say with this side compared to previous sides that I've seen at Collingwood, so definitely not Buckley's sides. I never felt Buckley's sides were in a game. Even when they were 5 goals up, I still felt like Buckley's sides could totally fall away. And the one year that didn't happen was 18. But every other time, like 5 goals up, it was like, we could just totally give this up. The Malthouse sides, taking 2-10, 2-11 out of it, it's the same. Like, I very rarely felt we were good for a comeback because we sort of ground out wins. So if they were 5 goals up, that was probably half the score we'd already kicked for that point. So just going to say with the Macrae sides, it really surprised me how much it feels like they can ignite and then just kick goals in quick succession and then start all the opposition and find a way to actually win games. So we'll say, I'm interested to see how that will translate in finals, whether they still have that verve and audacity.
Yeah, it's generally a different type of game, though, finals. So,
but it sort of can work both ways because under Buckley, they played that real finesse game, and that could come undone very easily in finals because you're getting more pressure. Whereas under Macrae, they're just playing this chaos football. So if there's going to be chaos a lot of the time anyway, it might facilitate making ground in the way that you normally wouldn't make with a real positional, Buckley type of game plan.
Yeah, I'm still really reticent about that whole falling over ass backwards and getting high up and then failing on the day. I think we do that too well, and I think that's something that needs to be shed from our psyche.
It'd be good.
And continuously doing it wouldn't help. I think you've got to build something.
I totally agree.
That is going to be competitive. I'm happy to wait another year for that.
4 years. I totally agree. My point was just, I think Macrae, hopefully he's brought across this attitude that was at Brisbane, that, we can always win this, and we always have the capacity to win it.
Yeah, and that could be a very good and valid point.
Which I don't think has always been there for the last 20 years.
At no point, like, if they make top 4 or they make a final and they win a final, no one's going to fucking say stop. Everyone's probably got as much belief in themselves that they could win it as every other side that's out there. So, except for probably Essendon. They don't win finals at all anymore, do they? You know what'll happen this year, though.
They don't make finals, yeah.
Yeah, so, look, I don't think everyone's going to put the brake on or anything like that, but I'd rather get there with some assuredness that you could go deep and win the bloody thing.
So this goes back to the whole equation of the age profile list. Is, you wait a year or two, Pendles is gone, Sidebottom's possibly gone. So you could have to go backwards again because you're suddenly losing players like Howe, Pendles, Sidebottom and all that. So, I don't know, it's a weird equation that they have happening. Final thoughts?
No, nothing groundbreaking. Just I'm loving where we are. I was 6 on the trot. I wouldn't have. What did we win? 6 in the whole season last year. I look again. They've surprised me.
Surprised me totally.
And I'm loving what I'm seeing at the moment.
Yeah.
Watching Collingwood is enjoyable again.
Yeah.
Whether they don't have to necessarily win them all, though, it would be nice. Just the style and the game play and the they're playing for each other. All those visible signs of positive improvement is there on display.
Well, it was interesting, 218, when we ascended up the ladder, and it was an article, and they spoke to Braden Maynard, and they talked about Longmuir coming in, and how Maynard effectively just said straight out, he goes, he's given us a game plan, we never had that. And after this game, they interviewed Maynard, and they said, how are you feeling? And he's going, we've given us, Macrae's given us a game style which we didn't really have the last 2-3 years. So it's really an indictment on where we sat for 9 out of 10 years, that they felt as is shapeless, and you saw it the way we played. The one thing I got to give Macrae credit for is just, I remember about 6 weeks ago, before we started winning, I was talking about this defensive vulnerability we had on the counter-attack where they were just going into, opposition were just going into open defensive 50s. And I said, I don't want to be having the same conversation we had under Buckley, where 8 years later we're still waiting for something to click. These guys have fixed it in a month, or not fixed it entirely, but they've addressed it, so it's really helped. The defend in the way that we weren't doing the 4 weeks prior. So kudos to them to fucking not taking 8 years to fix it. You know, they just did it straight away. They addressed it straight away. So,
it helps to have that level of brains trust.
I don't think you would have needed brains to go, how do we stop goals? We'll get it right in a year.
I think sometimes if you try and be too clever at this stuff and the message just doesn't make its way down, you can have all the great ideas and they're just not going to come to fruition.
But this is the thing, like when I listen to McRae, sort of going off on the tangent, but he speaks very simply, and I said this last week, like Lee Matthews, he breaks the bullshit down into very simple terms, whereas I listen to Buckley and he can speak football, but it's very complicated and it's very highbrow, and I'm thinking players just really want to be told, get ball, kick ball, tell us which way to run, which way to zone and all that sort of stuff. So it is a pretty simple game. We've always said it. Kick to the ball to a teammate who's wearing the same jumper, and then
put it through the big sticks.
Or at Collingwood, the other 2 sticks.
Or anywhere near the sticks would be a good start.
Anyway, that's it from us.
And that's it from us.
Until next week, later.
Catch.